These are the questions from the 2014 National U.S. History Bee, Round 1. First question. This group had a member who used the alias Robert Rich when writing The Brave One, and who had previously written the anti-war novel Johnny Get Your Gun. This group was vindicated when member Dalton Trumbo received a credit for the movie Spartacus. Who were these screenwriters cited for contempt of Congress and blacklisted after refusing to testify before the anti-communist HUAC? And the answer there is the Hollywood 10. Question number 2. This man is seen pointing to a curiously bewigged child in a Grant Wood painting about his fable. This man invented a popular story in which a father praises the act of heroism of his son when the latter insists, "I cannot tell a lie," after cutting down a cherry tree. Who is this man who invented numerous stories about George Washington for an 1800 biography? And that man is Parson Weems, or Mason Locke Weems. I also could have accepted that. This building, this is question 3, this building is depicted in Charles Wilson Peale's self-portrait, The Artist in His Museum. This building is where James Wilson proposed a compromise in a meeting convened after the Annapolis Convention suggested revising the Articles of Confederation. What is this Philadelphia building, the site of the Constitutional Convention? And the answer there, Independence Hall. I could have also accepted Old State House of Pennsylvania. Question number 4. This event's completion resulted in Major Ridge and Elias Boudinot's assassination by dissidents. This event was put into action after the Treaty of New Echata was signed. This event began at Red Clay, Tennessee, and many participants froze to death at places like Mantle Rock. What was this process of forced relocation of American Indian tribes to Oklahoma in the 1830s? And the answer there is Trail of Tears. I would have had to ask you to be more specific if you had said Indian removal, Native American removal, or the Cherokee removal. The answer again was Trail of Tears. Question number 5. This man's killer became a saloon owner and was himself shot by Edward O'Kelly. This man, a former member of Quantrill's Raiders, led a namesake group with the Youngers. This man was ultimately killed by a traitorous gang member, Robert Ford. Who is this Western outlaw who teamed with his brother Frank in an attempted raid on the Northfield, Minnesota bank? And the answer there is Jesse James. This is question number 6. This man's nomination for president came at a convention when Mayor Hubert Humphrey's pro-civil rights speech offended the Southern delegates. This man called a special session of Congress on Turnip Day to expose the do-nothing 80th Congress. Who is this president that was photographed with a newspaper erroneously predicting his loss to Thomas Dewey? The answer there is Harry S. Truman. Just needed Truman on that one. Toss-up number 7. This conflict featured Fort Michilimackinac taken during a staged game of stickball. In this war, Jeffrey Amherst proposed that smallpox-infected blankets be sent to the enemy, who besieged Fort Detroit to drive out white enemies. What is this 1760s conflict in which American Indian tribes were stirred to fight by the namesake Ottawa leader? And the answer there is Pontiacs War. All I needed was Pontiacs. As long as you said that, you would have gotten the question right. Question number 8. This man lost an election to Mel Carnahan after Carnahan died in a plane crash. While hospitalized with pancreatitis, this man refused to sign a document reversing the illegality of the Stellar Wind program. This supporter of Section 215 of the Patriot Act resigned and was replaced by Alberto Gonzales. What Missouri politician served as George W. Bush's Attorney General? The answer there is John Ashcroft. Question number 9. This device was improved upon by William Longstreet's breast roller. This device may have been perfected by Nathaniel Greene's widow, but its patent belongs to a pioneer of interchangeable parts. This machine separates fibers from seeds and led to the growth of slavery. What is this device whose modern mechanical form was patented by Eli Whitney? That would be the cotton gin. Question number 10. This university's first president was James Blair, and it was where the Phi Beta Kappa Order was founded. It was known as the alma mater to a nation because James Monroe, John Tyler, and Thomas Jefferson went there, though Jefferson's distaste for it led him to found the University of Virginia. What second oldest university in the United States is named after two British rulers? And the answer there, that would be the College of William and Mary. Question number 11. This tribe was targeted by the scorched earth tactics of James Carleton. The traditional dwelling of this tribe is the Hogan. Kit Carson forced members of this tribe to undertake the long walk to Bosque Redondo. This tribe's language was the one most commonly used by code talkers in World War II. What largest federally recognized tribe lives in the southwestern United States? And the answer there, the Navajo. Toss-up number 12, question number 12. These objects were the source of wealth for Ivar Kruger, nicknamed their king. Workers in factories from these often suffered from phossy jaw until the switch to safer red phosphorus. Democrats opposed to Tammany Hall in the 1830s got their name from a new subtype of these objects called locofocos. What are these small sticks that, when struck, produce fire? And that would be a match, or matchsticks. Question number 13. This woman sold servant Paul Jennings to Daniel Webster in order to pay off debts incurred by her alcoholic wastrel of a son, Payne Todd, the eldest son with her first husband. This woman was said to have saved Gilbert Stuart's Lansdowne portrait of George Washington during the burning of the Capitol by the British. Who was the First Lady during the War of 1812? That would be Dolly Madison. Could have also accepted Dolly Payne until I said Payne. Could have accepted Dolly Todd until I said Todd. And I would have had to prompt on Payne after I said Payne and prompt on Todd after I said Todd. But the most common answer would be Dolly Madison. Question number 14. One of these places promoted silence at all times and led to the creation of the Auburn system. Another of these places was where the Anglin brothers and Frank Morris used fabricated dummy heads in an elaborate 1962 charade, and Robert Stroud was the Birdman of that example of these places in San Francisco. What are these places, examples of which included Alcatraz? Those would be prisons. I could have also accepted jails or penitentiaries. Question 15. This politician was turned out of office by William Fitzgerald after voting against the Indian Removal Act. This man told his constituents they might go to hell and I would go to Texas, and was depicted mythically swinging a rifle in artwork showing his death at the hands of Santa Anna's forces. Who is this Tennessee-born frontiersman who died at the Alamo? And that would be Davy Crockett. Question 16. This document was the subject of a biography by Akhil Reed Amar. Charles Beard argued this was created by an economic elite who hoped to protect their property. William Lloyd Garrison called this an agreement with hell and burned it. Patrick Henry and other anti-federalists opposed this document for not having a Bill of Rights. What is this framework for the American government? That would be the Constitution. The Constitution of the United States. Question number 17. This year's date of October 22nd was said to be that of the Second Coming by William Miller, leading to the Great Disappointment. In this year, Joseph Smith was killed in Carthage, Illinois. This year's presidential election saw the victory of Young Hickory, a man who promoted the annexation of Texas. What was this year in which James Polk won the presidency? And that would be 1844. Question number 18. This location is named for a naval officer also known as Old Grog that captured Portobello in the War of Jenkins' Ear. This location's owner died in 1799 after about half of his total blood was removed by physicians treating a throat inflammation, and his nephew, Supreme Court Justice Bushrod, is buried here as well. What is this plantation home of George Washington? And the answer there is Mount Vernon. Question number 19. This country is where U.S. troops led Operation Northern Lights. This country became the target of military action after the U.S. rejected a report from Hans Blix in a presentation at the United Nations was made by Colin Powell. During American operations in this country, 2 battles at Fallujah took place. What is this country with which the U.S. went to war in 2003? Answer there, that would be Iraq. Question 20. This case's plaintiff was a welder for the Santa Fe Railroad. This case's deliberations were interrupted by Chief Justice Fred Vinson's death and his replacement by Earl Warren. This case's winning side used Kenneth Clark's test involving dolls to show psychological damage. What is this 1954 Supreme Court case striking down separate but equal public schools? And the answer there, that would be Oliver Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka. All I needed was the word Brown, so if you said Brown versus Board or Brown versus Board of Education, those would be fine too. Question 21. This senator urged for the commutation of death sentences for the perpetrators of the Malmedy Massacre. This man was attacked in Margaret Chase Smith's Declaration of Conscience speech and was asked if he had no sense of decency by Joseph Welch. Who is this Wisconsin senator that led a reckless search for communists during the 1950s Red Scare? That would be Joseph McCarthy. Question number 22. This period popularized the term anxious seat as used by orators, and it enjoyed much success in a New York area known as the Burned Over District. This period featured men like Barton Stone and Charles Grandison Finney holding camp meetings such as the Cane Ridge Revival. What is this Protestant religious movement during the early 19th century? That would be the Second Great Awakening. Question number 23. This colony's southern border was the site of Quizbowl War and was partially defined by the 12-mile circle. This colony's governing family worked with the neighboring Barons Baltimore to commission a drawing of its boundary with Maryland. What is this present-day state which extends south to the Mason-Dixon line? And the answer there, that would be Pennsylvania. Question number 24. These texts include one by John Williams that discusses his life in the aftermath of the Deerfield Raid. The Sovereignty and Goodness of God is another of these texts, set during King Philip's War and written by Mary Rowlandson. What are these accounts by American colonists of their capture by American Indians? Those would be captivity narratives. I only needed the word captivity. Question 25. This colony is where Governor William Stone was captured by Josias Fendall after the Battle of the Severn. Settlers were carried to this colony on the Ark and the Dove, which bore the religiously dissenting colonists that made this colony predominantly Catholic. What is this colony originally founded by Cecil Calvert, the 2nd Baron Baltimore? And the answer there, that would be Maryland. Question number 26. This state was where the White League arose following the Colfax Massacre. A senator from this state, who received his nickname from the Amos and Andy radio program, was killed by Dr. Carl Weiss. An octoroon was arrested in this state for sitting in a whites-only train car leading to the Plessy versus Ferguson case. A populist governor and senator from this state unveiled the Share Our Wealth program. What state governed by Huey Long was the site of Homer Plessy's arrest in New Orleans? That would be Louisiana. Question number 27. This man's memoir, Operation Overflight, led Lockheed Martin to fire him. He was later hired by KNBC in Los Angeles, dying when his helicopter ran out of fuel. Along with Frederick Pryor, this man was exchanged for Rudolph Abel 2 years after his 1960 appearance was covered up, whose U-2 spy plane was shot down over Soviet airspace. That would be Powers, Francis Gary Powers. Question 28. This incident is depicted in an image showing men standing outside Butcher's Hall under the command of a bloodthirsty Captain Thomas Preston. This incident resulted in the death of the mixed-race Crispus Attucks, and its perpetrators were successfully defended by John Adams. What is this 1770 incident in which British soldiers shot into a mob in a New England city? That would be the Boston Massacre. I could have also accepted Incident on King Street. Question 29. This man is depicted alongside Pee Wee Reese in a statue at Coney Island, and Ben Chapman once told this man to go back to the cotton fields during a contentious game at Philadelphia. This player's number 42 is retired by every team across the league. Who is this baseball player who integrated modern Major League Baseball by playing for the Brooklyn Dodgers in 1947? And the answer there, that would be Jackie Robinson. Jack Roosevelt Robinson. Question number 30. This product's prices skyrocketed in California after deregulation, thanks in part to market manipulation by Enron. In Chicago, Samuel Insull was one of the first to produce this and distribute it through the city. Topsy the elephant was killed by a man trying to demonstrate the superiority of his method of delivering this product. Thomas Edison and George Westinghouse feuded over delivery methods in the War of the Currents. What is this product that comes from power plants? That would be electricity. We've reached the end of the normal questions. There are 2 extra questions, which I will also read. This is question 31. This man spent time at Fort Snelling in present-day Minnesota and Illinois while working for Army surgeon Dr. John Emerson. This man filed suit against John F.A. Sanford, which led to a Roger Taney decision voiding the Missouri Compromise. Who is this slave whose attempts to sue for his freedom led to a Supreme Court ruling that blacks were not citizens? And the answer there, that is Dred Scott. Question 32, and this is the final question. This group's practices were exposed by Stetson Kennedy, who also informed the Superman radio show. This group was revived at a Stone Mountain meeting protesting the murder of Mary Fagan. This group's first leader was Nathan Bedford Forrest, who was known as its Grand Wizard. What is this white supremacist group which wears white hoods? And the answer there, that would be the Ku Klux Klan or the KKK.